Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad is my favorite DC property, and I feel very sheltered when when people touch my Suicide Squad, especially when that movie came out. Like, it was like everyone knew about Suicide Squad, and I was like the in guy, being like, I knew about it like 10 years before everyone else. So yeah, there was a new animated movie. Yeah, I was very happy because I'm like, no way, there's gonna be a freaking
live action Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit! And I know the only reason why it existed because of Harley Quinn. There was no other reason.
And the Joker.
No, I know, but they added him because of Harley. Because if the New 52 version did not have Harley, there would not be any Suicide Squad stuff at all. So I'm kind of happy.
Yeah, no.
I'm kind of happy in a way that it exists and people know about it, and so I get more Suicide Squad merch. But enough about that. There is the new anime movie, which is Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay. This, I think, is more aligned. I really liked it. It's more aligned to something along the lines of the 80s series, the original series, where it was kind of about there's a bunch of DC villains that we've used for one issue, or we haven't used for 20 years. Let's put them in this thing, and we can kill them and technically kill them off the entire universe because no one cares because they're nobodies. But yeah, the movie has a really good rock 80s 90s kind of underground aesthetic to it. It's it's hard to explain, but it's kind of especially with the logo with Hell to Pay, and I remember seeing flames and stuff. I'm yeah, this is it's very 80s to it. I enjoyed it. I think I haven't watched Assault on Arkham in a while. That's the other Suicide Squad film. But I think I like Hell to Pay a little bit more better. Just because it's more aligned to the comic, and I really liked how they toned down Harley a bit, because she was kind of the forefront Assault on Arkham, I feel like, and even at the start of this the film, where it's kind of a prelude to everything, and it's a train heist, and you get a bunch of I forgot what they were called, but that's the whole point of it, right? So yeah, you had a few characters and they just die and they explode, color, and
so
big explosions of blood. So I'm like, this is more adult focused, and I quite liked it.
I watched Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay, I think last week sometime, and it is definitely very mature and very over the top and very I guess as you said, it's 80s vibe kind of going on in it. But I think it definitely is setting the tone of at the very beginning of the movie of what kind of movie it sets out to be. Basically, the movie is about Task Force X, basically I guess secret organizations,
unsanctioned by the government type of thing. Hush hush.
Yeah. Hush Hush, where they kind of recruit villains to basically act as government entities and to do missions and stuff, in exchange to kind of lessen their jail sentence. And in this particular movie, what's actually really funny is the characters that you're referring to. I think it's supposed to be Punch and Julie. They're essentially these kind of throwbacks to very old comic book characters who I think they appeared in Charleston comic, which I think is a kind of comic company acquired by DC Comics, kind of towards maybe I don't want to say which era, to be honest, but a lot of the Charleston comics...
I feel like it'd probably be a weird 60s era type of thing.
Maybe, if not, maybe a little bit early, because these kind of characters and the characters from the Charleston comics were essentially used to basically make the Watchmen comic. A lot of them, I remember Alan Moore actually wanted to use a lot of DC comic book characters, and DC's no, you can't use any of these characters for this kind of, I guess, graphic novel you're writing. Here's these Charleston comic characters. And
now they're very iconic. So
yeah. Well, I mean, that's just it. And the Punch and Julie character actually have had their kind of Watchmen equivalents introduced in the Doomsday Clock kind of comic series. I think it's Marionette and the Mime. And it's quite again, I would recommend any of you guys, if you like DC Comics, if you like Watchmen, read Doomsday Clock. It's very, very good. Even though it is gonna apparently take like a while for them to release everything, but reading it bit by bit and kind of getting a little bit of the taste of the mystery is pretty cool. But yeah, in this movie, Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay, the team are basically assigned to basically get a card that is I guess, get into heaven free kind of card, right? Like,
Yeah, get out of hell free, get into
get
heaven
out of
kind of thing.
get out of hell free, right? And so, given that a lot of the characters are kind of criminals and killed people and done bad things, despite the fact that they're trying to acquire this for Amanda Waller and Argus, they kind of have a little bit of self-interest in regards to maybe getting this card themselves, and so the story kind of revolves around them trying to get this particular card, and also just kind of going on a bit of a road trip while they're doing it.
Yeah. I really did like that vibe. It was it was kind of like this fun vibe, but it's kind of like it's got a weird. I like the weird tone where it's it's kind of fun and jerky at times, but like in a sense, it's kind of like a dark comedy where at some point so it's like, oh no, people are dying and stuff, and that's kind of serious. Like I think there's a lot of cool things about this. Like I like. Obviously, the art's different from Assault on Arkham's. Like, I think Assault on Arkham's is more, I guess, clean. And it's kind of got that more, I guess, 2000s look to it. And once again, it's the aesthetic thing is different. What I really liked, actually, about Hell to Pay was actually the whole villain mystery when it comes to Zoom. Because Zoom is not really a villain that you'd see it like a Suicide Squad thing, and that was very different.
No. But I actually agree with you on this, because I was like, why the hell is Zoom in this? Like in this particular movie. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, they make a good reason to cross paths, and I like his thing. I'm gonna spoil it because I can. Basically, in the alternate universe, like one of the Earths, probably like Earth like 12 or something.
No. So
do you remember?
Yeah, no, I remember. So essentially, what they refer to in this particular flashback. So essentially, Eobard Thawne, very weird name, right? It's a future name, guy. Reverse Flash, or is he called or is it Professor Zoom? I actually don't know what they call him.
How many names? It's like
movie.
Arsenal and like
no.
No, but I'm just saying like there's so many names for the same thing, sort of. I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, the thing is, like, because Eobard Thawne, there's the Reverse Flash and Professor Zoom, but they've often like kind of been like specifically like related to a certain Flash. Like, I believe like his first instance was probably Professor Zoom, but then they've kind of like gone back and like called him the Reverse Flash, right? Like, so Hunter Zolomon, who, by the way, is the main villain in, what is it, the Flash season 2? Like, he goes by the name of Zoom, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then Eobard refers to himself as Professor Zoom and Reverse Flash. Anyways, in this movie they do refer to him as Professor Zoom, and essentially they show that he's been shot in the head and he's using whatever power he has left to kind of remain alive. Yeah. And basically in the Flashpoint movie, which is basically the first movie that kickstarted this whole line of, I guess, New 52-esque superhero movies that, I just mentioned before, I kind of found meh. But I think like the overall string that connects these things is really cool. And basically he's the same Zoom from that movie who got shot by, I guess, Flashpoint Batman, who is Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, I think I remember that now. It's been a while, but I remember I always liked that concept of like, wouldn't it be cool if Batman was like evil and like shot, someone, and he did?
Well, I would actually recommend you read, DC's Metal event, which actually does have evil Batman, fighting the DC crew. But in this, like you do have like a more kind of, Batman, I kill people, just to, he's more like a Punisher-esque character, but kind of in the big climax of the film where the Reverse Flash is talking to the Flash and saying that, him going back in time and saving his mum is basically what led to this kind of world where, Aquaman and, like Atlantis and Themyscira are having like a world war and, everything's like going to hell. And then Batman manages to kind of shoot him at the end. I think it might be different in the comics. I think maybe he gets stabbed, but in at least the movie Flashpoint, he gets shot in the head. And that's where it kind of ends. And in this movie, it's kind of a throwback to that event, in which Zoom is trying to get this card so he can, I guess, not go to hell for all the bad things that he's done. And
See,
yeah,
explaining
really...
that makes it sound like, because that's the thing. I'm like, oh, that's a cool concept, and I completely forgot that happened in the movie, because I remember watching that movie, so it must have been a while ago. But I do remember. I'm like, oh, that now that you talk about it, it's a lot more smarter than I thought it was.
Yeah, dude. That's why, like, my mind was blown when I saw this scene, because that's exactly like what I just told you is exactly what came to mind to me. It's like, oh my god, like they've connected that movie to this movie. Like, again, like all the movies are kind of connected in a sense. Like the whole, like as I mentioned, like there's a bunch of different like Batman movie that came. I think like they did like the whole Batman, the Court of Owl arc, and they did the Son of the Batman. They did like the Teen Titans. Like all these kind of movies are all connected in their own way. But in my opinion, like again with the animation, and I think you mentioned it before, like the sort of an Arkham, Suicide Squad movie, it's far more like clean, animation's more crisp, it looks amazing to watch. But again, like I like both of these films. They're very different films in terms of like the purpose that they're trying to serve. Like Assault on Arkham is okay, we're trying to connect this to Batman a lot more, and we're trying to connect this a lot more to the video game, which is fine because I think the movie is really, really great. This movie is again trying to create like a cohesive narrative behind the concept of Suicide Squad, but also connecting it to the wider universe that they've created for the past, like, I guess 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, like
I think that's really cool.
It did a really cool job of like, there's like a lot of things where it's connecting together, especially the I guess magic universe. Like I completely forgot it. It's in what do you call it? What is it? The Teen Titans, not the oh my god,
Young Justice?
Young Justice.
Yeah,
What's that with the helmet thing? I forgot what that was called.
Fate.
Dr. Fate. Yeah, I like the tie-in with that stuff. Like it was like a random thing where if you didn't know what that was, you'd be like, okay, but like if you know your DC lore, it's like, oh, that's kind of cool that you kind of link that in together. And I guess like,
I actually really like the interpretation of Dr. Fate in this particular movie because it is kind of taking the piss out of what Dr. Fate's character is. Dr. Fate is like kind of like a magic user who, when a person wears the helmet of fate, kind of gains the power of Dr. Fate. That's probably me just kind of butchering the creation of this character. But in saying that, like, there's a lot of people who've taken the mantle. I think there are like Kent Nelson is kind of the more like well-known character who plays or like kind of acts as his thrall. I don't want to say thrall. Thrall kind of sounds like, he's like a zombie, but I guess, yeah, like he kind of acts with the, magic from, Dr. Fate's helmet. But yeah, in this movie, they're just like, oh yeah, by the way, this guy is like a male stripper, and he kind of like he kind of like, again, it fits the tone of Suicide Squad, because Suicide Squad is just kind of very adult, it's very humorous. It doesn't mind just kind of being like, yeah, that's what this version of Dr. Fate is. Again, there's probably, as I mentioned before, there's different characters that have
played Dr. Fate in like many variations, but yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure like, the character who plays him in it is kind of supposed to be like one of the other dudes. So Steel Maxon, he had like a ridiculous name.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, like, because I think he changed his name in order to try and not be hunted by, like, I don't know, governments and bad guys and stuff. But yeah, it was just like this ridiculous kind of concept where he's just like on the run, and the Suicide Squad have to find him because, it's like, who's this guy that we're looking for? Oh, he's a male stripper? Okay. It doesn't give him an excuse to just go into a strip club and just see him kind of, I guess, what did he call himself? Like the Pharaoh, which is just very funny.
Yeah, because
Again,
he
it
had the
fits
tattoo of the
again, because it fits very thematically with Dr. Fate, which has like a very like Egyptian-esque vibe, to how, like, he's got like the Ankh and stuff. But yeah, overall, yeah, I really do like them. And I think, like, yeah, what I was saying before about, like, the connection with, Zoom and stuff like that, it's really cool. And I always do love seeing like a proper Flash fight, because you can kind of see like just how powerful Zoom is. Like, if he was actually at his full strength, like none of these people would have a chance against him. But because he's like slightly depowered, for the sake of the story, I guess. It is very interesting just to see, like, characters having to interact and fight him and stuff. I think in the Batman, I think it was like one of the Batman crossovers, between the Flash and Batman, where they're trying to deal with Professor Zoom, who's trying to get access to what they are calling the button, which is the comedian's button from Watchmen. Yeah, he kind of breaks into Batman's Batcave, and there's like these really cool panels where he's just fighting Batman over, like, I think like 2 seconds, but it's 9 frames, just like in the Watchmen comics, and it's just really cool to like see how the fight is. But there's a really cool moment where Batman kind of gets him, and he's like, well, in order for you to be standing in front of me, your foot has to at least stay still on the ground. And so he puts like a knife like where his foot would be, and he gets stabbed. Like, it's a really cool way to see how, yeah, like, even though Batman really has no chance against Zoom, like, at least he is trying to think of ways to fight. And it's why we kind of love the characters that DC portrays. It's really, really cool. I do agree with what you were saying before about them kind of having Harley Quinn kind of like turn back a little bit. Like, again, she has kind of become what is it? DC's like Deadpool, I think, in my opinion. Like, because it's just like, she's just there. She makes quips. She shoots things. She has a lot of like kind of fourth wall breaking meta moments sometimes, but she's quirky and like, yeah, like people.
She's the wild card.
She's a wild card. Well, like, I think in this movie in particular, like, it just kind of really showed, like, yeah, she kind of thematic. Like, while she is like part of the reason why Suicide Squad has gotten quite famous as of lately within like mainstream like eyes, she just seems kind of out of place compared to everyone else on the team. Like, you had Bronze Tiger, who's like one of the best martial artists.
He's basically kind of the Luke Cage of the DC universe, I think.
Yeah, kind of in a sense. I actually really liked his character and his interaction with Deadshot. Oh, also, you have Deadshot, by the way. Deadshot, like, the guy,
Deadshot's like everywhere now.
Yeah, well, like the guy who never misses his shot. Very entertaining character to watch on screen. Very useful.
Obviously,
He's got guns.
Every single Suicide Squad has to have a Captain Boomerang, so that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Captain Boomerang.
And even looking at it now, I'm like, oh yeah, all these random ones that I don't remember, like Copperhead. Like, I remember the character in the movie, but like, I don't know where Copperhead's from in the DC universe in general.
Yeah, I think he's probably just. I want to say he's probably just like a generic villain that like maybe like the Green Arrow or someone kind of runs into. Like, maybe Batman runs into him here and there. Like, I'm actually looking at his history. Yeah, like, I think one of the first interactions he has is in a Brave and the Bold comic with Batman. So,
that's once again, that's the whole point of Suicide Squad: get random villains that like aren't really as famous and put them in. But like, it did a pretty good job. But once again, I feel like they obviously they got the key ones. Obviously, the ones we mentioned before, even like one of the main ones of this movie, which is Killer Frost, and she's in there, and she, I think, in like, especially with the Flash TV show, she has really gained more attention these days, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, with Killer Frost, I think they kind of went with the actual kind of bad guy Killer Frost in this movie. With I think the Assault on Arkham one, it was like the second iteration, which again is also a villain. But I think her character's name was Crystal Frost, which, come on, guys. Like, I know DC has like tendency to be very on the nose with a lot of the characters. But it's like Crystal Frost, really, like it's like yeah, like not subtle with what her destiny is going to end up being. In the Assault on Arkham movie, the Killer Frost character is actually a different villain called Louise Lincoln. Whereas on The Flash, it's Caitlin Snow, right? And Caitlin Snow isn't a villain per se. I think she is more of at least they've turned her as of recently with Rebirth in particular into more of an anti-hero. And that's the kind of person we're seeing on The Flash. So that's kind of like the distinction. Whereas the one that you see on Hell to Pay is like, I don't care, I'm going to freeze these people and just kill them. Like, I don't care, their blood frozen. Like, it doesn't matter.
Also, it was pretty brutal in the movie. I think there was a whole shattering thing with the I think it stuck in my head. I don't remember, but it was like at the end, Killer Frost was freezing someone, and then someone smashed the person. You can see kind of like semi-blood or something smashed. I remember being like, man, that is actually pretty brutal. If you actually if they ever wanted to do like a live action one and then make it hardcore, like violent, that's a pretty brutal way to go.
I think they, as per usual with kind of any Suicide Squad like kind of film, they kind of, except for the live action, like just kind of the entity itself, like they're kind of like, all right, cool, we're getting to the end of the film, we better start killing people, right?
Yeah, right.
And people just started dying left and right. I remember it was the exact same thing happened in Assault on Arkham. Like just people started dying left and right towards like the end of the film. Which is pretty cool. Like, again, like that's what's kind of cool with these films. Like, again, you might like Killer Frost and you might like these characters, but like some of them die. Some of them have plot armor, obviously.
Yeah, I think even in this in the thing, Captain Boomerang did the whole thing of like tricking other people, being like, hey, these collars are fake, and then like killing people. I once again, Captain Boomerang's one of those characters where he's just he's a good planner and schemer, and And I just kind of like that character when he's around. Did he die in the Flash TV show, or is somewhere?
In the Flash, no. He's just somewhere. I think he's just like a gun for hire. But again, they kind of had their chance to try and do something cool with the Flash, where they had like, because I want them to do I forget what they're called. Like I think it's like, it's not the Secret Six. I think the Secret Six is the what the Spider-Man villains are called, but essentially there is like kind of like an equivalent on the Flash where all of Flash's kind of minor villains and major villains kind of team up together to fight him, but they kind of have like a bit of a code as well. Like they kind of have, and they kind of show it with in the Flash TV show, because you have like Mick Rory, who's currently on Legends of Tomorrow. Him and actually I'm actually forgetting the character's name. The guy who's got like the snow gun, not the snow gun, the ice gun.
Oh yeah. Captain Cold.
Yeah. Captain Cold. Yeah. So Captain Cold and Rory, like they also team up with like Mirror Master. They team up with like Count Vertigo, I think, who is actually in this movie as well at the beginning. They team up with a bunch of other characters, and they kind of fight against the Flash. I'd like to see a season where it's kind of like that. It's what they're currently kind of doing in Arrow at the moment, where like a lot of these kind of minor villains from his, like some of them are from their past, some of them are like current villains that are popping up, are working together to take Green Arrow down. Like I'd like to see like a very similar plot happen in the Flash. Like again,
hey, well, don't worry, guys. They're doing that in the movies. If you ever watch the end of Justice League, guys.
Well, we'll see, right?
Well, yeah, we'll see what they do. Which, by the way, the Aquaman trailer should come out in like 3 months' time, or like a month's time.
Oh, really?
I think so. It will come out at San Diego Comic-Con, maybe, if not before.
Yeah,
then,
maybe.
But,
yeah, it's going to be that big release that they have.
It's like the only one this year, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like, I mean, yeah, I'm interested to see where they go with it. But yeah, like, as I was saying before, like, yeah, they focused on, like, a lot of the characters, and I think they did a really good job of that. Like, it wasn't, like, I don't remember Assault on Arkham being, like, super heavily focused on Harley Quinn, but like again, like she is kind of the poster child in like Suicide Squad now. It's kind of like, their mascot. Maybe that's what she kind of is in this film. She's like a bit of like a mascot for like what the Suicide Squad is. She does have some pretty funny lines throughout the film, but again, like they're very like not small, but rather they're peppered throughout the movie. So yeah, it's kind of like, having her being like a cameo in the film. But speaking of Harley Quinn cameos, you
Woo.
know, another movie that we've watched is the new movie by Steven Spielberg. Can you tell me a little bit about it, Don?
Dude, who's Steven Spielberg? I've never heard of this guy in my entire life. Who is this